The Champions ESD 29, it's a wonderful facility out here that we have. They were kind enough to let us use it. It doesn't hurt that Richard Escott out here is on the board. Cheryl Rogers is the administrative commander of the facility, and I'm on the board, so they were nice enough to give us the facility. It's nice to see all of you because those that have been doing it for a while are getting tired.
Oh, no.
Except for Rick. I have to tell a story on Rick. A couple of years ago, he called me up. He said, "Do you have a truck?" I said, "I do have a truck." He said, let's go Saturday and ride around the Beltway and get all the signs." I don't have a big enough truck. And I did. I saw the fools laughing. Janice and Scott are the only people I know that on election day took the signs from in front of the podium.
Wow.
Pretty blatant. Our main instructor today, y'all will notice that the last time he gave us a class, he was a mere corporal. So apparently, with our association, he's now Sergeant Bart Stephenson, preschool 4.
5 cents still won't get you a cup of coffee.
We have legal support, Mr. Cedric Loeb, Assistant County Attorney. His support, Debbie Dillard, also from the county, hiding in the back. I have to tell, I have just one more story to tell about Cedric. If anybody ever wants to talk to your lawyer, first thing you tell him is, you're not going to like it. Because the first time somebody told me I insist on talking to the lawyer, I thought, oh. And after that, it's with great glee that they say, I want to talk to the attorney. I say, oh yeah, you're not going to like this. Because the only thing that he tells them is don't do it. And you won't listen. Having said that, the bathroom's right over here. There's some non-ice water here. I have one more story. Brett Hoskins holds the single record for the most signs and the shortest time from the same company at 72.
Now we're keeping the tally.
We do. Well, he kept the tally. He kept bragging about it.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. The last time that Cedric and I tried to put this on, we got 3. So this is a lot better. I really like this. Now, to start off, a young lady here asked me how long the class was going to be. I really was kidding when I said 4 hours. You're not going to be here 4 hours. There's not a lot to it. However, some of you will be on the list that was not forwarded to me earlier, so your certifications will actually come later on through Commissioner's Court. Okay? I'll explain that later on. We all are here for the sign training, correct? Raise your hands. Okay, I will tell you something a little bit about myself. My name is Bart Stephenson. I've been with the Harris County Constable's Office 25 years in August. And I've been in the training division for probably the last 8, almost 9 years. We actually started this through Mike Stafford's office when he was in office in 2008. So we've been doing this about 5 years. And I've seen a lot of positive things come out of this. Those of you, I know I've got quite a few in this room that have been doing this for quite some time. And from what I've heard so far and some of the things I get from Ken and what I get from Larry is that some of this bandit sign stuff, posting on the county right-of-way, has started to slow down a little bit. I think some of them are actually getting the message, and I hope I'm correct on that. But, you know, Cedric helps me out with that. What we're going to kind of do in this next hour and a half is we're going to go over the historical overview, how this all came about back in 2008. We're going to talk about the regulations, House Bills 412 and 413, and Chapter 393 of the Transportation Code, which basically gives you the power to pull these signs up. We're going to show you some examples of bandit signs, what you'll be looking for, placement of where the bandit signs are. We're going to discuss confiscation and how we notify the public at public auction. We'll go over that. Civil penalties and suits, certification and authorization of volunteers, and documentation. Kind of depends on how we're rolling. What I normally like to do is get through the presentation If you have any questions, write them down, and then you can address myself and Cedric towards the end. If you have an immediate question you think I'm going to forget, feel free to ask it, okay? Everybody did get a handout that I had over here. I hope I had enough for everybody. What this is basically the Transportation Code of 393. The very last page in your handout is kind of a volunteer report form. And we'll go over that a little bit later. So, a little historical overview. Scenic Texas is a nonprofit organization that started back in 2008 to try to beautify Houston. Well, it kind of expanded out to the county. The county commissioners got a kind of hold of this, and they said, well, you know, we want to try to do this out in the county as well. So they have dedicated themselves to the preservation and enhancement of our visual environment. Not all these signs stapled to telephone poles and sitting out on the side of the street, or the garage sale signs that are left out there for weeks and sometimes months after the garage sale. The local chapter, Scenic Houston, develops the facilities, implementation of the public policies that affect visual streetscapes, thoroughfares, and freeways. In the 80th Texas legislature, a couple of legislatures before this last 82nd, they passed House Bills 412 and 413, which amended the Transportation Code to combat the placement of bandit signs. The bandit sign training program provides you with an overview of the regulations, identify the various types of signs, and explain the procedures in place to confiscate these illegal signs. Constables, sheriffs, and volunteers who have been properly trained and authorized by Commissioner's Court may confiscate signs. At the end of tonight's training, majority of you that I have on my list, and those of you that don't, I will get your certificate and your little I too can pull up bandit sign card. I will be submitting your names to Commissioner's Court in order to get you certified. Okay? Now your certification will not be good until I think the Commissioner's Court meeting is in July 23rd. So that's when your card carrying member actually kicks in. Okay? Regulations. The Transportation Code, specifically subtitle H of Title 6, Highway Beautification, gives entities various remedies for combating illegal bandit signs and other non-permitted forms of advertising. Bills 412 and 413 amended the Transportation Code, specifically Chapter 393, which allows confiscation of illegal signs on public right-of-ways. It also provides the county attorney, district attorney, and/or city attorney to sue the owners of the signs for civil and/or criminal penalties. It gives them that authorization. A couple of definitions, a few definitions here. A sign. Does anybody here not know what a sign is? Okay. I've actually had people in these classes that were, we wanted to make sure what a sign was. That's why I put it in here. It's any outdoor sign displays light, device, figure, painting, drawing, message, plaque, poster, anything of some type of advertisement. Okay? Out to the public. Now the public right-of-way, and we'll kind of go over this a little bit more later on. Public right-of-ways vary from road to road. And the public right-of-ways generally are about 60 feet. General rule of thumb is where the telephone poles are, out to the center of the street is county property. So any signs on a right-of-way from the telephone pole towards the street is a illegal. I like participation. Okay, you can't sleep in my class. Yeah, but do you like I do my officers? I don't make you sleep. I'll make you get up and do jumping jacks if I have to. Okay, or if there's no telephone poles, it's from open ditch to the center of the roadway. It's kind of a general rule of thumb. And we'll kind of explain later that if you have a question about, well, this sign is placed here, I'm not real sure, like Cedric and I were talking earlier, pick it up and let them try to defend where their sign was. That's kind of the way we look at it. Confiscation. If a bandit sign is on a public property and is less than $25 in value, the sign may be confiscated and discarded. If a Bandit sign is greater than $25 in value, the sign may be discarded, but proper notice must be given by the proper local authorities. And we'll go over that a little bit more in detail in just a little bit. So, Bandit signs are typically used to advertise to the public and have to be where? Placed where? On a county right of way. Good, y'all pay attention. Excellent. Home builders advertisements, directions to new housing development sites, open houses. These are what we see a lot of. Resident group advertisements such as garage sales or parties and events that may be going on. And then we see the small business signs. We've been seeing a lot of those. And this is the employment opportunities, the personal training, dog walking, house painting, you know, tax service, all this stuff.
Repair.
What? Credit repair. Oh, tons of credit repair. Yeah, I'm sorry, but if you have to put a little sign like this stapled to a telephone pole, I don't think I'm calling you for credit repair. Just me. Signs may be found nailed to utility poles or trees, placed on control boxes, placed on traffic signs, or posted on other right-of-ways and yarded areas at parks and entrances. I've actually seen signs taped to the back of stop signs. I've actually seen signs taped to the front underneath the stop sign. Okay? Wrong. You don't do that. There's kind of examples. These are old pictures, but it gives you an idea. I don't know if we have a razor on. I want to push something and mess it up. You can see about where the tree line is. This is about where the county right-of-way is. Where this one is where the fence is. All these signs are on county property. About that 60-foot distance that we discussed earlier, all these are there. These are the good ones. Here's your credit repair sign. Right there. Salsa lessons. Anybody want salsa lessons? Just call them. We can all take them together.
You know, the home builders are the gateway to everything.
I'm sorry?
The home builders are the gateway to this whole problem because everybody feeds off the, well, the home builder can do it, I can do it. Right?
They are. But I think the word's finally getting out, and a lot of the home builders now are starting to try to do the right thing. A lot of them still aren't. But, and Cedric will go into this a little while. You see, he's going to kind of give us an update on what kind of progress they've had through their office as far as litigation goes against these home builders and different people doing this, correct? Right. So as you can see, I mean, well, here's the one with the sign posted right on the stop sign. We see a lot of this. And this is why we have you, fine volunteers, going to go out and try to help curtail some of this mess. The big medians, that is still county property. You can't do that. And as you see where the telephone poles are, again, credit repair. So it's not real hard to spot them. We see them all the time. And we just kind of overlook them. I think a lot of people overlook them. But they are an eyesore. So, confiscation and notice to the public auction. Sheriff's constables and trained volunteers may confiscate illegal signs. Signs less than $25 in value may be confiscated and discarded. Signs greater than $25 in value, the owner, if they're known, must be notified by either the sheriff or the constable. And notice must be given within 10 days of confiscation by certified mail with return receipt. So if that sign is over $25 and you report it, you have to report it to the sheriff or the constable. Since most of you, I believe, are out in this area, or that's what I'm giving you the authority to do, our public, or our Bandit sign liaison, if you want to write this down, his name is Larry Finley.
Very well.
He's a lieutenant, I'm sorry. Lieutenant Larry Finley. He's probably going to kill me, but I really don't care. I love him. He knows I love him. Should be an ad. So it's Larry Finley, Larry_Finley at cd4.hctx.net is his email address if you have any questions for him as far as the notice or confiscation.
And that's just in four, right?
Yes, just in 4. Yeah, this is just for precinct 4. If you happen to be in, I think a couple of you are from Fort Bend. I don't know how your commissioner's court or who your sheriff liaison might be, and I don't even know who the Harris County Sheriff liaison is.
What about West Harris County, like North Katy, North Fry Road, FM 529?
That would probably be
Precinct 5?
precinct 5, and you might want to call their office and just see if they have someone that is a liaison for it. I'm not sure if every office does. Unfortunately, Lieutenant Finley they just kind of said, "This is yours." They probably looked at his daily activities and said, "You're not doing enough here. There's something else for you to do." Yeah, I know how that feels. A lot more stress and a lot more pressure. So if they're known, what do we have to do?
Gotta contact the sheriff's department.
You have to notify who? You have to notify the sheriff or constable, and the sheriff or constable has to notify them within 10 days. Okay, so don't hang on to it for a month and go, "Oh yeah, I forgot to call Lieutenant Finley and tell him about this." Okay, you got to do it right away because they have to notify them by mail within 10 days. Now, if the owner is unknown, the sheriff or constable in the precinct where the sign is located must publish notice within 10 days of confiscation, either in the newspaper or general circulation in Harris County. Normally, we post it up at the courthouses, at the one in Humble and the one in Cypresswood, because we're still following the parameters of the law. We've set a notice out there, okay? And that gives them the opportunity to get their signs back. The sheriff and or constable may sell the Bandit sign that has been confiscated after the owner has been properly notified at public auction. And is there a specific amount of time, Cedric, that we have to hold the sign before we sell it?
I think it's 30 days.
I think it's 30 days too. I just wanted to make sure. That I know of, we have never sold a sign at public auction. But hey, these home builders might want their sign back and they may buy it. Yes, ma'am.
Could you backtrack and tell me what is a $25 or less sign and what is a $25 or more sign?
Okay. Here's some examples. This sign right here, it looks like it's on metal poles. It's fairly large. It's going to be well over $25. A lot of the home builder signs are anywhere between, let's see, such as these right here at the bottom,
Those are a couple bucks.
because they buy them in bulk. If we bought one sign, it may be about $16, because a lot of these are double-sided, and when they print on both sides, it's usually between $16 and $20 per sign. But because they buy them in bulk and they screen silk them and print them in large numbers, they pay between $5 and maybe $6 a sign. So you can collect all those you want.
They're typically made out of a Coro, plastic, Coro, or paper.
Yes. They really started going to that plastic. It's cheaper. And so it's not, I mean, you're talking signs that are a lot less than $25. These signs are well over $25. So you kind of gauge what it is. I mean, we're not looking for exact, okay, well, you know, this sign cost me $25.03 to make. Oh well, okay. You kind of have an idea of what's going to be under $25. These little signs like this are definitely going to be under $25. Collect them all day long.
That big sign, that $140,000 sign right there, we obviously can't pick that up. Should we just contact Larry Finley and tell him?
You actually contact Cedric. They will start the process of sending them letters, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but that I know of, they start sending them letters saying, hey, your sign, that's worth a whole bunch of money, is sitting over here on the Harris County right away. You have X number of days to get it moved, or I send a crew out there or send the Harris County maintenance crew out there with a chainsaw, and we take it down and it becomes scrap wood.
Can we just use
So
a
we can't
chainsaw and
cut
chop
down?
it down?
I wouldn't. Let them go through the legal route of sending out the letters of notification. Let them try to take the sign down. If I remember right, back in 2008, they actually did take that one down because Spree Homes said, we're not taking our sign down. They argued and argued that it was on their property, and they found out real fast when the Harris County maintenance crew came out there with a chainsaw and cut both of those pieces of wood and dropped that sign and threw it in the back of the truck. They weren't playing anymore. And then they had to go the legal process of getting their sign back.
Yeah, a lot of these builders, it's just the cost of doing business. That sign costs them about $500, but if they make one sale off it, they probably make 20 grand.
True. It's true, but if we get, but what else they're not figuring out is, correct me again if I'm wrong, but for each sign that's sitting out there, $500 to $1,000 per day. All right?
That's right.
Yes.
And I was hoping that wasn't missed. Because
Oh, no.
while we may not take the sign down, if you still document it, we tag them. And that number for a company like that hurts.
Always take pictures of all the signs. It's got the date on the picture.
And we're going to talk about that in just a little while, towards the end. Yes, sir.
How about if the support is back behind the telephone poles, but the sign itself extends out?
I would contact Cedric's office and let them go out and send some of their people out, take pictures of it or whatever they do, and then start the legal process.
Yeah, what
If
some
you have a
builders
question
do-
about it, if it's questionable about where the sign is, contact the county attorney.
What some of the builders do, they know that law, so they'll put 6 inches on the other side of the phone pole.
And, you know, if it's in their, what was it called?
Curtilage?
Not their curtilage,
I thought the state law said.
their place of business, their
On
property.
premise.
Yeah, on premise, yes. If it's on their premise, even if it's 6 inches in, it's legal.
Well, they do that all premise everywhere.
Yeah.
But doesn't the Texas Highway Beautification Act say something like you can't, on any state highway, if you can see it from 600 feet away, it's an illegal sign?
I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that.
That's something to do with something from the toll road and how you still have to not do blight, but we haven't wanted to fool with those yet because we've got our hands full with these others.
I can help you on that. I talked to a guy named Craig Glenn from TxDOT, and
Okay.
I talked to some people in Austin. The signs have to be determined by the state to be an obstruction. And I actually went out riding with this guy. He was nice enough to pick me, and I showed him where a bunch of large wood signs were. And they go through a documentation process, and we can actually do it with our cell phones. You can determine the lat and longitude on it. And then they process it, they send notices. It takes several months to get any traction on those. It's really...
That's all done through the state, through TxDOT.
It's through TxDOT. And then TxDOT on some of these highways will tell you that's not our jurisdiction anymore. It's turned over to the toll road authority. You got to go through them. They hire contractors to manage the toll road during construction. This is a much more effective process. What's going on here, you'll get much more traction going this route. TxDOT, I hate to say, if you've got all eternity to wait for traction, then go that route, but otherwise...
It's not real high on their priority.
No, it's not.
Yeah, Fort Bend County.
You talk about the toll road and their high, that's why our tolls are $1.75 now.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
In regards to off-premise signs, which are basically, even in the ETJ area, the city takes care of. Off-premise, if they're on public property, like a vacant lot. But what you can do, like with vacant lots, you can contact the owner. If they have a sign that says this property is for sale, and you have a Bandit sign, a big, one of those signs, you can contact those property owners, and sometimes they'll let you take down the sign.
Well, this is what Cedric and I were talking about earlier, and I'm going to let you address the off-premise private property issue that we were discussing.
Well, first of all, you can't get a permit from the county to do an off-premise sign. That's the first problem. So, secondly, when we talk about an off-premise sign, we're talking about an advertiser who is advertising goods or services not on their own property. So when you get into that situation where you have a sign such as that, you're probably looking at a Bandit sign, and at worst, an unpermitted off-premise sign. And so the county has a department that deals with that, and they issue Class C misdemeanors to deal with that. And I was speaking with people there the last couple of weeks about if your effectiveness with the Class C misdemeanors is getting you where you want to be, that's fine, but we can also go the civil route and go after the deep pockets on it. So we're kind of fooling with that right now. But for the most part, if you're advertising a business and it is not on your premises, that is an off-premise sign. On-premise signs are regulated. I think there's about, you can have like 5 faces of a sign that faces something. But you're really not going to run into that issue, I think, for our purposes, because we're dealing with something a lot different. So that's kind of a whole another bailiwick.
What about utility easements? Who regulates that?
Say that once more.
Utility easements, like in line with phone poles?
The utility easements are still in the public right of way. So those, if you got a sign that's within that area, it's still a Bandit sign. We'll go after, we do go after.
And that includes utility easements that run perpendicular to the road?
Perpendicular, well, I don't know.
Because you know how some lines they'll cross a road?
Well, usually the utility lines and the gas lines will run perpendicular, but you're talking about a road that goes this way and a perpendicular easement. I don't think you're gonna have anybody advertising way down here that's gonna bother you from where you can see over here. So as a practical matter, but I'm not sure. But when in doubt, send it to me, we'll look at it. What we've decided to do, like once you've been qualified as a ranger and you make a good faith report to us, that's gonna be their problem at that point. See, as Bart was telling you a little bit
I
earlier.
got an example picture, I'll show it to you later.
Gotta put some burden of proof back on them. You know, they have to prove where their sign was. Penalties and suits. A person who places or commissions the placement of a legal sign is subject to both civil and criminal penalties. Violation of Chapter 393 of the Texas Transportation Code is a Class C misdemeanor, fine not to exceed $500. Civil penalty is between $500 and $1,000 for each violation, depending upon the seriousness of the repeat offenses, which is kind of up to the county attorney's office. You know, where they're going to go from this. You know, how often has this particular business been in violation of putting out Bandit signs? You know, we're going to up it up. We're going to start looking for that $1,000 mark. Okay, now it's going to cost you for every 50 signs you put out there. Okay, it's going to be $1,000 per sign, and that you start hitting their pocketbook, and they start not putting out so many signs anymore. Sheriff and constable will provide proper documentation to the county attorney in anticipation of filing a lawsuit, which we'll kind of talk about that little report in just a little while. Public officials. You know, we got elections coming up next year, 2 years after that. And we always have little elections here. We see campaign signs all over the place. Political campaign signs may be confiscated if they are posted illegally. Okay? Candidates for the office may be liable for civil and criminal penalties if found placing campaign signs in public right-of-way. Now, what that means, though, is if I hire you to go out and put out my campaign signs, and this is why the politicians kind of wrote this into Chapter 393, you can't come after me. That's my defense. I don't know what he was doing. He was a volunteer and he put my signs out. However, if you see the politician, the actual candidate out there putting up his own signs, then we can go after him. Okay? And that's what the bottom part is, that defensive prosecution is the candidates were not the ones placing the signs out there on the public right away.
Oh, before you go, the city election is in November. The first time you can put a campaign sign up, because I checked it out, 90 days before the election, which is August 7th. And they're already starting to put them out.
Oh, sure.
So my box cutter knife is ready for them.
Because they don't pay attention to when they can do the lead up. They don't. They're trying to get the jump on the competition.
Eric Dick has it a little bit lower, but they're out.
But they're out.
Is he running again for something?
Yeah, it says city attorney Eric Dick. I think he's running for mayor. I thought maybe he was running for city attorney. I call the city attorney's office. I don't think he's run for office for city attorney.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
He had that question. So I guess he's a city attorney, he's running for mayor or something.
Running for mayor?
Yeah. But he's got blue and white signs out on Highway 59.
Oh. Well, he's
Low
getting,
level, not high over the telephone pole.
he's getting a jump on the competition. take them down.
Yeah,
Take them down.
cut them down now.
As far as documentation goes, this is extremely important to involve documenting everything when we're going to be confiscating these signs. The exact location and placement of the sign, you want to make sure you have a good description. Number of signs that were placed in that general area by the same owner. Why is that important?
The seriousness of the offense.
Okay, seriousness, but we'll be a little bit more specific about seriousness.
Per sign fee.
That's it. How many signs are out there determined from Cedric how many of these things I'm gonna file on him for? How much I'm gonna hit his pocketbook for? Date stamp photographs are really good. I know Cedric loves getting photographs of where signs are. It holds up better in court. It adds a little bit more validity to you actually taking that sign down. The number of colors on the sign and whether or not both sides are printed, why is that important?
Well, each sign, if it's got an ad on it, it counts for one ad. So if it's got one on either side, that's two.
That could be two. And it could also determine the cost of that sign too, right? So you may have to figure that in if we want to, report it over to Lieutenant Finley so he can post notice. And any other factors that may indicate the seriousness of the violation. And that could be just about anything. Photographs are always a real good thing to have, along with that report I gave you. You're welcome to make copies of that, and that helps to turn it into Lieutenant Finley or even to Cedric when we're going to do. Yes, sir.
When you talk about seriousness, it brings back memories of the city of Houston when I went down to Robert North's office.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think of serious, you better be careful when you pick up signs. You might want to wear gloves because this person that was, he spray water, what's that called? Pressure washer?
Pressure washer.
He was operating a pressure washer business, and he sabotaged the sign. So if you picked it up, you would get cut. It had glass and nails.
Wow.
So that's a serious. So you take a picture of that.
I've seen them wrap the post with barbed wire, stuff like that, so you won't pick up their signs. Yes. So, I mean, if you see things like this, where the sign is booby-trapped, it's got a Claymore mine sitting in front of it, trip wires going out to each sign, might want to photograph that and call bomb squad, I guess.
Okay.
I'm not touching it.
I will give you a booby trap. Be careful pulling off on the side of the road in the concrete inlets.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure it's a concrete inlet, and it has, because what happened on Beltway 8, Royce Holmes put some signs up, and I was taking them down. The guy figured out where I pulled over. So what he did was he put hundreds and hundreds of nails in the grass area, on the thing, on the concrete, and then covered it with grass. I got hit. All 4 tires had like 75 nails in it. I was not the only one that got hit on Beltway 8. A guy that was taking care of all those wires, those big tension wires, he had a horse trailer, and he drove through this whole thing, and he got hit too. His whole horse trailer cost him over $1,000. So when you think of seriousness, I don't want to get you all scared about it, but just be cautious too.
Well, can you do anything about
If you can
that?
prove
Yes,
too?
yes.
Okay.
We can up it
Because
$1,000.
that's where, we need the law that,
Well, I didn't call the law.
set it up as a booby trap.
But how do you prove it,
Well,
Now, the only problem with that is we have to prove who put the nails down.
And I still got
So
the-
prosecution is limited. However, but like what Cedric said, if this stuff is going on, he can start bumping up that fee for the company that had the signs put out. We may never find who actually put the nails down, but we can hit the company.
And on the civil side, it's by preponderance of the credible evidence, not beyond a reasonable doubt. So if you've got a history of dealing with these people, whatever we can convince a jury to believe, we get there.
And if they chase you, right, and they're running after you and everything like that, you can report that to the county sheriff. It's called road rage.
Yes.
That was an S3 home.
But I'm sure I could lump that into seriousness of the violation too,
Right.
and let that be one more thing they have to dance to.
Property sign values, in general, most signs, and actually that is a typo, it should be under $25, not over $25. In general, paper signs cost between $20 and $30, depending, we've already kind of discussed that, when they buy them in bulk, they get them a lot cheaper. When purchased in groups of 25 signs will cost around $6.50, and this was about 8 years ago, so depending on inflation, it may be around the same, it may be even a little lower. It kind of depends on if they're getting a brother-in-law deal somewhere.
Yeah, the builders probably purchased it
They-
at $1,000.
Yes. But like you said, I mean, they sell one home and they've gotten about 3 times the amount that they use for advertising. Public right-of-ways, always stay off of private property. If you're out there collecting these signs, don't go on somebody else's property without their permission. The following are common locations of illegal right-of-ways. We kind of saw pictures of this, the islands, the medians, you know, on the corners. You kind of have a good idea of where these signs will be. I know you've seen them. That's probably the reason why you're in this class. It's a nuisance to you too, and this is why you want to do something about it. As a general rule, public right-of-ways are either 50 to 60 feet from the center of the road, like we've discussed. Common method, like we've said, is from telephone poles to public roadways. Typically, signs are placed between the line of the telephone poles and the roadway or the public right-of-way. So if you kind of use that general thumb of where the telephone poles are or where the common ditches are, the other side of the common ditch to the center of the roadway, anything in there is county property. Now, one thing I do stress when you're out doing this, safety is always first, your safety. That sign out there is not worth you getting hurt or somebody you're with getting hurt, okay? Because trust me, if they put a sign out now, they're going to be putting them out again. So leave it, go on to the next one, and we'll come back and get him later on. Park your vehicle in a safe place off the road or an intersection. Set your parking brake, leave on your hazard lights. While you're away from your vehicle, do not illegally park your vehicle. Okay? You're out there trying to do good for the county. Last thing we need is you breaking the law by parking it illegally. Determine if the sign is located in a public right-of-way. If in doubt, leave the sign, photograph it, take down the information, and contact Cedric's office. Okay? If you really have a doubt, I'm not real sure on this one, you can leave it, or like we've said before, and this is, like I said, this is kind of old, but Cedric even says, pick up the sign and send me the stuff and I'll make them prove it. Okay? So either way, but we want you to avoid any confrontation. We don't want you to get a confrontation with any of the owners or proprietors of these signs over the placement of where a sign is. It's not worth it. If there is a confrontation that happens, move away. If you need to, get on your cell phone, call Constable's office, Sheriff's Department, 911 if it's a dire emergency, and get us on our way. If working in an area with many signs, start a distance away from your vehicle, and then work back towards your vehicle so you don't have to carry so many signs so far. Okay? And don't be in a hurry. Pace yourself. I actually think it's better to go off in groups of more than one. I mean, some of these diehards that run out there by themselves, you know, you who I'm talking about. Who? Like there's an owl in here. But it's always safer in numbers. So you're less likely to have confrontations and that type of thing if you have more than one person. If you have a sign that's especially the metal pole signs that have the, I don't know what they're called, almost like the step that they stick into the ground.
I own a sign.
It's a what?
It's called H-frame.
H-frame. You have to remember that.
All right.
You have the poles that are H-frames that you have to really put your back into, lift with your legs, not your back. Okay, if it doesn't come out, leave it. Just photograph it and send us the information. It is always best to wear some type of reflective clothing so you know the traffic coming by will see you. Do not remove signs in high traffic areas or dangerous intersections. We don't want you to take your car, park it in the middle of 1960 in Kirkendall because there's a couple of signs out there on the corner, your flashing lights going and you're on your orange vest. Okay, park your car and don't go out there where you may be injured. Remember, safety is what? First. Very good. Everybody is still awake. Wear sunblock, stay hydrated. I mean, especially this time of year. I mean, it's June 26th and it's already 102 degrees out there. We usually don't see this till about August, but it's getting hotter earlier, so make sure you're hydrated, especially if you're going to be out there any amount of time. Use protective gloves, protect your hands. You know, we talked about booby traps and that type of thing. Really look at that sign before you go just grab it and pick it up. Watch for any signs of fatigue. We don't want you out there collecting 100 signs and you drop on the ground collecting bandit signs. Very important. Last one is very, very important. Collect signs during the daylight hours. I know it's easier to collect them at night, less traffic, nobody can see me. You put on your camo makeup and okay. What you do, as far as that, is totally up to you. I recommend you do it during daylight hours. Okay, it's safer that way. Your role and responsibility. Training. You must have participated in the mandatory training program, which is what you're in this evening. However, even though you're a volunteer, you may be dismissed from the program for any of the following reasons. Okay? Knowingly trespassing on somebody's property. Verbal or physical threats to someone who's placed out a bandit sign or the owner of a bandit sign. Defacing any property or illegally carrying a weapon or contraband.
When, can you just go back real quick to the, and I don't know if this is a verbal threat or not, but I've happened upon people placing the signs and I've gone and asked them not to do that it's illegal.
But that's not a verbal threat.
But, well, you didn't let me finish. So I said, if you
sorry.
place it there, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to remove it. So I don't know if that's, I mean, I'm threatening that I'm gonna take a sign.
No,
So-
physical threat.
Oh.
You don't move that sign, I'm gonna kick your,
Yeah.
and y'all can then fill in the blank after that. Yes, ma'am.
Bart, for the benefit of the rangers, do they have the support of law enforcement if they're seen taking up signs?
Yes.
You're not going to sheriff or HPD or you will not stop them and ask them what they're doing?
I can't, they may stop them and ask them what they're doing. At the end of the night, you're gonna get a little card, okay? It's gonna have your name on it, it's gonna have our logos on it, and it's gonna say, you know, sanctioned or by Commissioner's Court on a certain day, and gives you basically the permission to do this, okay? I can't attest to what HPD might do or what the Sheriff's Department might do. I know our officers know that you're out there and what you're doing. Okay, so if there is a problem, if for any reason, and I have our training division's phone number on this card as well. If for whatever reason don't get in a confrontation with the officer, just, okay, sir, you know, I'll go about my way or whatever, and call me. Make sure you get the officer's name, be polite about it, okay? You ever heard of POP? Who doesn't know what POP is? Raise your hand. Okay, it's called pissed off the police. And in some cases,
remember that, yeah.
statute of limitations are up on me, but in some cases I've heard of people that may beat the rap, but they won't beat the right. Okay, so be polite, take their name, and call me. Okay, if they're with our department. Now, if it's with HPD or Sheriff's Department, I don't know how much help I can give you, but I'll do what I can. But I know with our department, I have a little bit of pull, especially when it comes to this.
Well, Captain Warren's supposed to have given a roll call training as part of the Bandit sign program, so they should recognize.
For Sheriff's Department?
Yes, in this specific area, the substation there.
So, defacing property, you can't claim illegal sign on the sign, the billboards.
Yes, you can't do that. And as far as the verbal, physical threats, you can't just physically threaten someone. If you don't move that sign, I'm going to do something to you. Not that I'm going to do something to your sign.
But you can say, I'm gonna turn you into the
Oh, yeah,
county
yeah. I'm gonna
attorney.
take your sign and I'm gonna turn you into the county attorney's office. That's not a threat. That's a promise.
That's for real.
That's right, that's a promise, that's not a threat.
Harrison,
Yes.
if someone calls because you're taking down your sign, typically I take down garage sale signs and people will call the police. I live in precinct 1 and usually it's the sheriff's department that will come. If they do not know, when they do arrive, I have a folder with every sign laws here, a letter from Larry Finley about garage sale signs and everything, and I hand it to the sheriff, and the deputy right there, and that question, oh, you're the sign police.
Have you had any problems?
No,
Good.
but when I give it to them, he goes over to the garage sale owner and tells them to get their signs off the front.
Where he's gonna pick them up, I'm gonna let him take them.
That's right, exactly. Exact words.
Yeah, see, that's about the way it works.
So you have a little, if you carry a folder,
Good.
when you have a confrontation, or not a confrontation, but a situation where an officer was there, you give them that. Or else you'll have to call Larry Lipton, and he'll have to try to get you out of the situation. That's the way it was before we had the car.
If you're going and you're gonna be collecting these bandit signs from somewhere other than our precinct 4 district, you may want to find out from your local law enforcement who handles their bandit sign policies as far as their notifications, who can you contact. I have known of some people in certain areas in different counties that have actually called up the police dispatcher and said, hey, I'm such and such, I'm authorized to collect bandit signs, I'm going to be in this area between this 100 block and this 100 block. So they kind of know what you're doing. So if they get, hey, I got a theft of a sign call, I know who's out there, and they can relay that to the officer as well.
Can I comment on one?
Sure.
The city of Pasadena, which is a long way from here, but they actually require their citizens, when they have garage sales specifically, to permit for the garage sale, and they have to buy a permit for that garage sale. I don't know if there's any place out here. So they pay a permit. So if anybody's in Pasadena, you pick up a garage sale sign.
Well, because Pasadena's a municipality,
Yeah,
they can
right.
put that in
And
their
they're
ordinances.
there too, so they'll put
Sure.
the ordinance and they'll charge.
Harris County doesn't have that. Have they ever thought about maybe doing something like that?
I mean, it's a revenue generator.
Yeah, but Harris County is massive and trying to keep up with that. And who's got a regulated bandit? I mean, Pasadena's like this and Harris
You have to
County's
put it
like
on your
this.
sign. You have to actually print it on your sign that it's print. You have to put the permit on the sign.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it's just.
When I contacted Richard Alderman about garage sales, I asked him, when does it become a business? He's a people's lawyer. According to the state comptroller's office, sales tax is required on any more than 2 garage sales in a calendar year. You can only have 2 garage, it's Wednesday through Sunday, your sign's gone for sure.
Yeah.
And if it's up there every week, your sign is gone. But your sign's gone anyway, but I mean. This is the right.
If you're anywhere near there,
Can you say that
In
again?
the daylight hours.
What is it?
if you have more than 2 garage sales per calendar year,
2 days.
2 days or more.
According to the state comptroller, it's a state
State
law.
comptroller, okay.
Yeah, 'cause we have a girl-
And here is the occasional sign. This is the law for occasional sales.
The occasional sale of a taxable item and the storage, use, or consumption of a taxable item, a sale or transfer of which to a consumer is made to the occasional sale or exempt from the taxes imposed by this chapter. Occasional sale means 1 or 2 sales of taxable items other than an amusement service or retail during a 12-month period by a person who does not habitually engage or hold himself out as engaging in the business of selling taxable items at retail. The sale of the, the entire operating assets of a business or the separated division, branch, or identifiable segment of the business, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So basically what it says is that you can have 2 of them per year.
I'd like a copy of that, because we have a girl in our neighborhood, she has one every weekend.
And I've seen people that do
Last weekend, her husband was out there cooking hot dogs.
Was he selling hot dogs?
Yes.
That's a
I'm like,
Really?
yeah.
And if you check out homeowners associations, if you go to the homeowners associations in this area, the one on 249, right across from the little racetrack there, Okay, the homeowner association there says there is no signs allowed in that park. I take them down, I take pictures of it.
But let me mention so that we stay on point. I know that was an interesting bit of FYI, but key to what was read there was you're exempt from taxes, you're not exempt from the bandit sign law.
Right.
So let's not forget that issue. If you've got a sign out there in the right of way, you're done, whether it's at your house or not.
Right.
So it's still a violation. And one of the things that we might have talked about, I'm sure we would have talked about at the end, and you have this as rangers, much like police officers have. They don't have to arrest you for everything they see you do. You don't have to do it. It's called discretionary. You have that same discretion as a ranger about what you perceive to be a serious enough violation that warrants some interdiction. So use your judgment. You guys fought long and hard to get these laws in place, to get this litter on a stick out of your right of way. So just keep that in mind.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
On the previous slide, it said that the volunteers must participate in mandatory training. Does that mean that someone who can't go out there on their own and start pulling signs without attending this course?
It's actually a very good question, and according to the law, it doesn't say that you have to do this. This just gives you a little bit more credibility, and it helps with the confrontation part of it in case you are confronted while you're out doing it. You have some kind of credentials, at least from commission.
But can a concerned citizen go out there and just pull up
Yes,
signs?
they can.
Yes.
Okay.
They can.
In the words of one Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office deputy, is a law against putting them down, there's no law against taking them away. Bandit signs
Yes.
on county rights of way.
So to answer your
You just
question,
volunteer, you just
yes,
volunteer to clean up
you
the
don't
community?
have to have the training to do it. This just adds a little bit more, credibility to what you're out there doing.
Is there any legal benefits of having the training if there were a confrontation or problem?
As far, what do you mean by legal benefits?
Oh, I don't know.
I would think so.
In this day and age,
If you have something to show a police officer that says, hey, the constable's office and the county attorney's office have trained me to do this, okay? It holds more credibility to at least to a police officer when you're, if there was a confrontation out there.
Let me also add, let's say you're Larry Lipton, and we've trained you in our program, and you've been in it for a year or two, and you've been doing, God's work out here. We haven't had any complaints on you. No one's ever called my office and lodged a complaint. And so the absence of a complaint is significant when you start talking about proof in the court of law, just as it is that there were complaints made against you. So we can say, well, Larry Lipton's been out and been doing this stuff for 2 years and no one's ever complained on it. We don't have a single complaint.
Yeah, but it was
So that militates in your favor.
Sir.
It may not bail you out completely, but it helps a little bit.
How this became law is from this area. I went to Larry Lipton's crime prevention meetings at the Northwest Chamber. I think it was, what was it called, Larry? Something like that. And I'm sitting across the table with the different constables and the sheriff's department and everything like that. And I was explaining how hard it is to take down these signs when people are chasing you and yelling at you and chasing you with canes and all kinds of situations. I said, if we just had a card, it would help us a lot to show them, because they're all asked, are you with the city? Are you with the county? Are you with the state?
You're not authorized to do that.
You don't have the authorization to do this. So I made this suggestion, if we just had a card. Patricia Harless in 2007 took that idea and took it to Austin, and that's why it's in law. And that's why it came from this area right here, at his little meeting that he has.
It's not
once
that
a
it's
month.
illegal if you don't have the training. It just, like I said, and like what we've all said, is it just adds a little bit more credibility to what you're doing. You've actually gone through this, okay? Also, you may be dismissed for accepting bribes. You know why we all have warning stickers on everything that we buy or use, right? Why do we have warning stickers?
Because it's stupid people.
Because some moron out there has done it, okay? These are why we have our little rules. We have had people that have actually done this. We have had people that have actually gotten dismissed for doing these very things. Knowingly, misuse of Harris County or City of Houston property, we have actually had them take city and county signs and put them on the sides of their cars. Maintenance department.
No way.
Creative.
Performing under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Yes. Perform misrepresentation of your position. We had a guy that said he was with the county attorney's office. He was an investigator with the county attorney's office and authorized to pick up these signs. We've had them impersonate sheriffs, constables, police officers. Yes. And
DA's office prosecutes this one.
Yes, they will.
They will nail you.
Of course, they will do. Or a trend of valid complaints, like Cedric said. You know, if you get a lot of complaints on this, because they keep a record of who all's been trained in this too. I keep a record of it. So I know, you know, if somebody calls me up and says, hey, dude, you know, Joe Schmuckatelli over here, is he one of your Bandit sign people? I can look it up and say, never been to one of my courses. I can call Cedric and go, hey, is this person ever been trained anywhere else that you know? In fact, I think I'm the only one that's ever done training on this class. So if I haven't heard of you, you haven't been through my class. Or if I can't look you up. So we look at the valid, you know, the trend of complaints. We don't want to see that. You can't be dismissed for that. Hopefully all of you seem like fine people and you're not going to do any of these bad things. Depends on how people practice. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. That's the end of my little spiel. But do you have any other questions about what we've gone over? Yes.
How do we get hold of Cedric's office?
How do you get a hold of
Okay,
Okay.
we have, you know, that's probably where I dropped the ball. But I know Ken Latimer has plenty of them, and Ricky has plenty of them, so I know they're gonna bail me out. But we have a report form that we use, and there is a community protection email address on there, and it's community protection, one word.
Because I don't think I ever got with you. This is the...
Our CAO, is it a CAO address?
I got to get with you on that. They changed it? Okay. Where could they get a copy of that new report form? So obviously the report form you have is...
This new report form should be on our website, county attorney website. If not, you can email us at communityprotection@cao.hctx.net, and we will provide you the form. Community protection, one word, at CAO, which stands for County Attorney's Office, .hctx, Harris County, Texas, .net. Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions. One, you say that the Sheriff's Department or the Constable notify these people that you have their signs in your possession, and they have so many days to come pick them up. When they come to pick those up, are you charging them a fine at that time?
Yes.
Yes.
And is the fine $500?
Yes, per name, per sign,
Well, that's from
from us.
the civil side. Yeah, they can be, they can be charged with a Class C misdemeanor.
People then come pick up their signs if they know that if they're a $25 sign and then they're gonna have to pay $500?
Well, because the signs, when you confiscate a sign under $25, you're not going to turn it into our office. It's going right in the dumpster.
And which dumpster?
Or you can make
do you
fireball
prefer to
water out of it.
Yeah, that's a good question.
They're talking about.
People want to know about disposal. I usually take them to a park that is county park and use their.
And you can use their dumpsters. Yeah, don't use somebody's private dumpster in the back of their business.
But she's talking about the $25 or greater.
Or greater?
We're talking about the more expensive sign.
Okay.
You could have, that could be a violator with multiple signs and be in disbelief that they're violated. It doesn't give you a right to destroy their signs because they have a right to have whatever value it has, or whatever salvage value it might have, or whatever it might do with it. But it's just one little nuance that was put in the law, but it's really not a big deal because we don't really care. We're gonna nail them on the $500 per day. And if you document those days, and if they're concerned about getting their sign, we can tag them in their pocket. They're gonna have to pay.
Okay, I have another question. If I own property in precinct 4, it's my private property, and I allow someone to put a sign on my property that advertises another business that's not my business, do I have to have a permit to
That's a bandit
allow
sign.
that?
That's a bandit sign. It's called an off-premise sign.
Okay, but if
As the landowner,
As a landowner, you're not.
you don't.
No.
I don't have to have,
No.
but the person that puts the sign on my property has to have a permit?
Yes,
Yeah, he won't be able to.
which he won't get.
So when the contractors are in your neighborhood putting siding on your house, they shouldn't have one of their signs in your yard unless they have a permit from you.
If it's in your yard and not on the Harris County right of way, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
You don't? Well,
I see it all the time.
Those that get-
Well,
I know technically it is a bandit sign.
Yeah, technically, it's a bandit sign,
Right.
okay? Because he is advertising his goods or services away from where his business is.
Off premise, yeah.
He's off premise.
But he's
So-
at my house doing that work. at
Just
my-
don't you put it in the ground.
Okay,
That's the key for you. Don't put it in the ground.
okay.
But that could be against deed restrictions too for that particular.
Well, they could. And most of them I've seen do it. They put their sign out while they're
While they're
working and then
working.
they pick the sign up when they leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't leave their sign. Like if they're doing your roof for 4 or 5
Just
days,
roofing.
that sign's out in your yard while they're actually working. So it's still bandit sign because it's still an off-premise sign.
But that's where your discretion comes in.
Right, and that's where discretion comes in.
And mine.
Okay.
I probably won't file that.
And as a homeowner though, if you don't want that sign in your front yard, you tell them, I don't want that
Well,
sign.
or in our neighborhood, it's against deed restrictions, but it happens all the time.
Deed restrictions can only be enforced by the
Barking
homeowners
by-
association.
I have a question on collections, Cedric.
Yes.
What are the odds of, on your return? And if they don't pay, do you send them to a collection agency? How enforceable is that to get the fine paid?
We probably have probably a 45% success rate on getting the fines. What happens after that, we take a judgment against them. And then that judgment is abstracted in the county clerk's office. And all the credit agencies pick up those reportings and it hits your credit record. It becomes a judgment against you that you're gonna have to satisfy if anybody's gonna make a credible loan to you. So to the extent that they are legitimate people, it's still something you have to really deal with. But as far as the little mom and pop fly-by-night deals, it's not gonna really reach them.
You know, what about corporations like big home builders?
It gets them, and we don't really have trouble with them. Just to tell you an interesting story, in the very beginning when we did this, we ran into a buzzsaw with one of the home builders, and we ended up settling the case, and they took their signs down. And we haven't had any problems with any home builders since. And I think what had happened with them was they had developed the property. The plat hadn't been turned over to the county yet, so it was still their property. And so it kind of fell into one of those gray areas. And it was in the first 3 months or so of our picking this up and trying to run with it. And maybe to our detriment, we were so aware that people like Scenic Texas and others have been fighting for a long time to get teeth in this thing. I've been doing trial work for Harris County, will be 28 years in December. And I can remember when people were putting stuff in the right of way and they claimed, well, the commissioner said we put it out on Friday and take it up by Sunday, it's okay. That was never true. But the problem was we had no ability to go after because it was a First Amendment issue. And then through the legislative work and other things, Scenic Texas helped find a way to make this happen. And then when Larry's group and the Scenic Texas folk came to us with it, our then county attorney, Mike Stafford, says, I want to enforce this. So we just took off and ran with it. And we're probably way down the list ahead of any county in Texas on doing this. We've got the most judgments, most lawsuits, because we were very aggressive with it. And so we didn't get to study it as much as we might would have wanted to. But our history has told us we're on the right path because we haven't really had any real fights with this yet. So.
I'm trying to convince Fort Bend County Attorney's Office, Marcus Spencer, and his staff to do something very much like this. I've had some conversations with him. Would it be possible to get a copy of the PowerPoint over to him? And is the certification, is it I know it deals with state statutes, is it a county certification or is it a state certification?
This is just the county, through the county commissioner.
So this certification's not gonna hold weight.
In Fort Bend.
No, but the certification is recognized by the legislative act that empowered the county to be in a position to certify you as a ranger. So it does have some significance.
Yeah, Fort Bend it's a horrendous problem out there.
We're recording this entire meeting, and you can get a copy of all of it.
Yeah, that'd be great too. I mean, I took a picture of the class size. Mr. Spencer seems like a very nice guy. He's interested to learn more. I actually invited him to join me, either him or his investigative person. It's John Plessette. And they're going to get a picture of the class. I want to send that, and of course they have a log.
Remind me, I'll give you one of my cards that has my email address.
Yeah.
He's welcome to email me, and I'll be happy to send him a
I'm
copy.
very much interested in meeting the constable and discuss this class. So the constable is precinct 3, precinct 4, Fort Bend.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, I'm going to try and...
Yeah, because your law enforcement really needs to get involved. I mean, it states under the law that they're the ones that have to submit notice on signs over $25.
Yeah.
So they really have to be involved, and they have to be up to speed on 393 too.
Right. Well, I think once they see, like Joe Public probably, you know, they see these cars, they think we're a bunch of renegades, but once they see how viable this is and how well organized, how structured it is, and you know, the safety provisions, everything, you know, I think I might have a good shot at getting them to adopt this and try and spread it over.
And that's why we'd rather you come to these classes so we can talk about the safety issues and what to do and what not to do.
But you should also know that those of you here, you're in a unique precinct. Constable Hickman is well behind this. We haven't seen this type of support from the other precincts.
That's the problem.
And Hickman has provided his resources, his personnel, his facilities. They support what you guys are doing. And Vince Ryan does too, because when Vince Ryan came into office, he said he wanted to continue this program. Only problem we hit was about 1.5 years to 2 years ago. As you all know, governments were almost bankrupt. And the county funds went kaput. We lost 20 people in our office because of budget cuts. And so our ability to more prosecute this than what we're doing has been hampered a bit. But as I told Ken and Larry, we're trying to target the big guys. We want the big ones. You get us the big fish, we'll go at it.
Yeah,
And because we make it fall, the rest of them fall.
If you hammer the big fish, the little fish will go away.
For the most part, but you got a lot of residual stuff about people who see other people doing and they say, well, it must be okay, and they go.
That's why I call the builders, the home builders are the gateway.
Right.
Well, hell, they'll put these big billboards up, 4 signs wide, every 10 feet on the road. I guess it's okay.
I've educated several people. Just a few days ago, I was discussing a personal trainer starting up a business. And I tell them about this law. I tell them how it exists. I tell them there's a program in Harris County. I invite them to join me. And I would say it's probably about a 50-50 ratio. We'll see some people say, wow, I didn't know this, and they stop. And I did that without a certification here, just informing them factual information on the laws, not making, I didn't even make any recommendations to whether they quit or keep doing it. Just say, this is what's going on, and this is why I take them, and I'm going to be going to this class, why don't you come with me? Their signs stop. And then the other 50% persist because Bandit signs in bulk, you can get them for actually $1 a piece. You know, they'll wait. I find that some of them will wait to the contact by the county. Usually if a municipality contacts them, then finally 50% of that number will stop. So I see it's a very effective thing.
Public education on this whole thing. If you go down 1960, past 249, every once in a while, they used to put up Okay, the signs are up. They used to cover it with a piece of paper that was derogatory. But now someone has got this genius idea of putting up the law, covering up the phone number and everything like that. I wish there was a way we could have more public education. I created a t-shirt. So when I take pictures, people that are right behind me while I'm taking the pictures, they understand the law. I wish there was a way we could, I know the city has signs on light poles that say it's a $500 fine or whatever it is. The county could possibly do something like that, but what about flyers?
The only thing is it costs money to put those signs up, and that's why we have y'all out there. As far as defacing somebody's Bandit sign, you're no better than the person putting up the Bandit sign.
Don't do it.
Okay? If they have a Bandit sign up there, take it down.
Yeah.
Don't deface it, don't take out their phone number, take the sign down.
But what they're doing now is, there's this one person, I don't know if he's even here, but he has a piece of white paper and it has in nice print,
I know.
the law.
We don't want to do
Don't do
that.
it.
Yes, I saw it.
Let's
We don't
recognize
want
the
to
lady
do
in the
that.
back.
I think
Ma'am?
DOT
Yes, ma'am.
does that.
Talking about education, is there any sort of education effort aimed at the people who actually produce these signs?
No, because there's nothing illegal about the printing company that prints the signs.
Okay, I own a sign company, and I'm here because I feel that there is a moral and ethical obligation to our customers to keep them informed. So when they come in and they ask us to print a Bandit sign, we educate them and we will not print it. We've pulled it from our marketing material, we've pulled it, we've put regulations up, we will discuss it with them. We will discuss fines with them. So I would challenge you to, as volunteers, to go into the sign companies and ask them if they will be proactive and if they will help you to accomplish this. And, you know, government won't do it because, but a sign company, I believe, has a moral and ethical obligation. When I saw Larry post this last week on Facebook, I called him and I said, I want to come. We keep up with the city. We followed what was going on with the city and, you know, okay, what's changing in the county. So I think that you can, you know, go and ask, and talk to the sign companies nicely and say, are you aware? Will you help educate? You know, people have walked into our office and they said, oh, we need a sign made for a police officer and we need to do a stakeout. Really? Well, you know, I did get a call and they came in and presented their badge and they were really police officers and they weren't, and so we printed a sign. But we don't do political signs. You're going to have backyard people doing, you know, out of their garage printing those kind of signs. They're going to be hard to find, and they are really cheap. So I just ask the sign companies on a volunteer basis.
Let's recognize the lady in the back.
I'm here because I work for Massage Envy. I put Bandit signs out.
You work for
I do
who?
Massage Envy. I had no idea there was a law.
Oh, I got a lot of
completely
That's why I said we need to
uneducated.
educate.
And you know what? I thought homeless people were stealing them. I really did. And I apologize. I had no idea there was a law. I was completely uneducated until I got the email from somebody who said, could you go to this class? Had somebody walked into my shop and said, can I talk to your marketing person? I don't like the fact that they're putting these signs out. It is this, that, and the other. I would have the reason I'm here is to educate myself. I would have never seen one of my signs out again.
Thank you.
What's the name of your company?
Massage Envy.
Massage Envy?
Yeah, Glenlock Farms.
And the thing is, you know, businesses will say, oh, this is the only way we can get advertisement.
It's not.
There are 500 pages in this book here of businesses. And there's like 4 columns on each page. If all these people were allowed to if all these people put out signs, just think of what our road was really about.
But
And
nobody's
really,
ever,
there's
my
not that
point
many
is,
of the real, the violators, there's not that many in this little booklet, I'm sure.
nobody's ever taken the time to call me and say,
How many of you have visited a business from looking at a sign on the pole?
People don't even read them.
Where do you find where you want to go and what you want to get 99% of the time? The internet, the Google machine. We fire up the Google machine and that's how I find what I want. Half the stuff I buy is off the internet. Have it shipped to my house. I don't want to have to go get it.
I visited businesses and told them about their signs being illegal and we need to
stop.
And that's a good idea. I think, Ken, you've done that before too. He's seen signs out there and he'll go with the business. Hey, did you know your sign's illegal? Hey, I didn't know it. So, you know, in a lot of cases, they picked them up, correct?
About half, probably.
About half, yes, sir. Some of them don't care.
Is there any type of program, and I know this takes a lot of time, if you go up and down 1960, just the various businesses along there, getting them involved from the standpoint, okay, if you got Walgreens, if Walgreens management would see signs out in front along 1960 within this framework, they would automatically police their own right-of-way right in front of you.
Amen.
No, because Walgreens has put Bandit signs right on the line and it's still.
Well, I just use that as an example.
Sure, I understand what you're saying.
You know,
And I think that would be a great thing to do. If you can get them to do it. That's the whole point.
Yes, we get creative.
Two things. One, I actually went into a legend home about 6 months ago, told them their signs were illegal. They told me to get out of their office and said they'd call the police on me if I came back. But another thing, just information for you, there's a big sign company called Media Nation. They advertise on Craigslist for Bandit sign installers. They actually make the signs and hire the people to install them for them.
I had a couple of issues I wanted to go over with you with regard to our enforcement end that's not covered by this, and that is our biggest challenge on enforcing the groundwork that you guys do is being able to trace that sign back to who's behind it, who's making the money, who's getting the message out. I guess I'm gonna suggest to you to be creative in your work. There's nothing that says you can't call this business and say, oh, you do granite countertops. Well, who are you? You've been in this business how long? Well, are you with the Better Business Bureau? If I look you up, well, who are you? Tell me who you are. Get some names. Put that in your report form. Because then when we start skip tracing and trying to find out who they are, we've got a better chance of tying it back to who that advertiser is. We can get to them. That's our biggest challenge. Next thing I'd like to tell you, this law is so powerful, it's almost like a slam dunk. If they are in the right of way, they are violated. The biggest key then is, can you document the right of way? I'm taking it on faith from you guys as being trained rangers, that you have some idea what the right of way is, and that the sign is where you say it is, and you sent me a photograph. Then I have to go out and prove that. When we first did this, we hired a couple of surveying companies, and the county had in-house surveying for the longest, and I didn't know when we did this that time, we outsourced it. One of them cost us $4,500, the other one was $7,000. Well, we found out that was a little bit of overkill, because if I ask you, what authority do you have to put this sign where you did, and you give me the two-step, and then I said, well, this is the county right-of-way, and you say, no, it's not. Then if I have to go prove this the right-of-way, if I have to pull a survey or something, guess what? You just bought that survey. I can have the judge assign that cost to you. Now, whether I get the money back or not is a different story. But for the most part, when you are able to document these signs day after day after day, that number goes up. And I tell them, if you hassle with me over this, or you want to fight this deal, you're just going to add county attorney legal time to it. That's not already factored in. Those attorney's fees can be significant. And you're going to lose anyhow. So why don't you do the right thing? Take your sign out of the right of way, give us a nominal fine, and you go home. Promise don't do it again, we're all happy. But I can get there when you have the big stick. You give me the big stick when you can document where it is, and you give me a number of days, and I got this big number I can work with. $10,000, $60,000, $1,000. It's significant. And what we want is compliance. What Vince Ryan wants is compliance. We're not after the money. The money is not the important part. What's important is getting them out of your right of way. Get rid of the litter. So that's what we're after. Yes, Larry?
But having said that, what kind of fines or judgments have you been successful in getting?
I've got one judgment over $100,000. I've got $7,000 judgment, a $5,000 judgment. The $7,000 and $5,000 judgments have been paid. We get a lot of $2,000 and $3,000 judgments that have been paid. And probably over the last year, we got a little creative in what we were doing, because when you have people who don't know, it brings a lot of sticker shock when you see 5 signs, 12 days. Do the math, okay? I said, look, you want to cut a deal? You contact 50 people who are posting signs in the right of way, like we found yours. And you say, look, what you're doing might be illegal. Reason I know is the county attorney's office sued me, and I'm having to deal with that issue now. So I'm outreaching you to let you know that maybe what you're doing is illegal. You might want to stop. You'll have people who will tell you, I didn't know it was illegal. Well, it doesn't protect you. But what requiring these people to do, if they swear to this affidavit that I asked them to do, 50 violators, who you talked to, when you called them, what you told them, what they told you. And I tell them, give them a copy of 393 of the Transportation Code that makes it illegal. You swear to that and tell me you did that, I'm going to cut your fine significantly, because I just want you to stop, and I want you to agree judgment saying I'm not going to do this again. Hopefully they call these 50 people. So if you get 50 people who call 50 people who call 50 people, you know, maybe it gets out there. Hopefully it's done that, because we've seen some reduction in the number of egregious complaints that we've gotten over the years. So that is another issue that we deal with. But one last issue. Okay, I told you about location and helping us know who they are. That's really big. So you may have to do a little role playing to do that, but we just talked about that. Those are 2 big issues that I have. We're now trying to cut back and just go after the big guys. But if you got a repeat person, or it's something that's just sticking in your craw, send it to them. We're filing. We filed 72 lawsuits. We've collected thousands of dollars so far, and we're not done. And if you keep up the work you guys are doing, we'll still keep it up. Yes, sir.
Just 2 quick observations. On the confiscation, if I know there's one main road in Fort Bend County with 3 major violators, and on that road I can probably find upwards of 20 signs from each company. By confiscate and report, are you still able to move forward versus just leaving them there?
Yes, still go forward. Once it's in the ground, it's a violation.
Okay.
The key part is that that brings me back to one of the point I wanted to make. For every day you can say, if I put you on the stand and say, Mr. Lipton, did you confiscate this gun? Yes, I did. What day did you do that on? I did it on, and he checks his notes. I did it on the 1st, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. How many signs did you find that day? I found 5. All the same company. Yes, I did. Pass the witness. I'm done. I just hit the home run ball. See? So if you can swear and say that you saw this sign here that day, this day, what can they say? They don't even know when they put them out. And they can't even tell you where they are.
Yeah.
And they sure as heck can't tell you when they took them down, because they never take them down.
I can assure you the first report from me will say something to the effect of, I picked up 30 plus signs from this med spa. They've been in place since this date approximately 90 days ago. And I've confiscated them. So I mean, basically the clock's running, those 90 days count.
And here's what happened. The only leeway that a judge or jury has is if they believe the number of days you said they were there. See, if you said they were there 30 days, and the defense puts out something that says they were 10 days, okay, we're 10 days. 10 days times 500 times, how many signs?
Yeah, 30. Well, my photographs on the metadata
Right,
give this.
But you know, people sometimes don't believe the obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah, just believe you. But they're not going to believe you sat up there and field for 30 days and you manufactured 10 more signs than what they had already. So we get there. You can take them all down and we're still there as long as you can document it. And they said, well, how do you know that, sir? Well, I made my notes. Let me see. Here's my sign, my sheet where I said, okay. Would you like to see it?
Oh, we take pictures of the signs.
Yeah, I know. I mean, but there's your notes that tells you when this happened, because when we get to court, maybe a year later. So document it. Yes, sir.
Just to clarify, on right of way, is it every road in the county 60
feet from the center?
Well,
It's
it's usually 30 feet either side of center.
Yeah.
30
Some can be
feet.
smaller,
But it's every road, it's every
just about.
street, road,
pretty much so.
boulevard.
But pretty much so.
neighborhood.
But the pivotal part for you is when you leave the travel portion of the road, let's say you're driving this way and your pavement stops here. Something's going on from this part to somebody's property line, okay? And from basically from the center line from where you were driving to out here is gonna be the right of way. Usually
About
governed.
30 feet.
Yeah.
Top of the pole, yeah.
At a minimum, could be wider.
Okay.
Could really be wider. Some can be smaller. But usually when they get smaller, it's gonna be closer to the edge of the road. And you're gonna see where the property line or some homeowner or business line begins. You'll see something that's gonna kind of throw you that way. But in those close cases like that, you still send it to them. Because as the sergeant was telling you, we make them prove it's not. Especially if they're an egregious violator, we make them prove they're not. Anybody else?
Any other questions?
We're seeing more flags.
I want to say a special thanks to Constable Higgins' office for all of his support that he's done and him loaning us Sergeant Stephenson. Special thanks to Larry Lipton, who was one of the pioneers in helping push this agenda forward. He got assisted when he handed the ball off, or Ricky took the ball. I don't know which one, but I can tell you as of late, you've been really infused with a very energetic person in Ken Latimer. Ken, raise your hand. They made that. About this, and he's as equally as excited as you or Larry and Ricky. So I can tell you I've had a lot of dialogue with him over the past year, and I welcome any of you, if you have questions about how we can do this, how we can even do it better, let me know, let Debbie know, let Sergeant Stevenson know. We'll try to do it for you.
Before Bart starts, there are 11 people in this class that 3 years ago started picking these signs up. And today, just the ones that are documented, today, there's just under 7,000 signs and 140 complaints to your office. I'd like to thank them.
I just wanted to say one thing. Are any of you members of the Northwest Chamber? Well, I want to congratulate you because you all are doing quite a wonderful job of outreach and getting the word out. Cedric and I visited the chamber last year, and one of the violators, prolific violators, is Mattress Giant. Do you still see their sign?
Oh, Mattress Firm we can talk about.
Yeah. But Larry tells me that you don't see any more signs.
Well, no, because they were bought by Mattress Firm, so they're not even in business anymore. Yeah.
Do you deal with the lighting, the new lighting, the blinking?
Cedric, the lighting?
Yes, we do deal with the,
8-second.
I forgot what it's called.
Digital sign?
The one that changes the message every so often. There are some requirements about how often that changes.
Is it spectacular?
Spectacular. There you go.
8-second.
We had looked at Walgreens at one point, and there was a church along 1960 whose sign may have been changing more frequently than it was allowed to. And we didn't get to continue that because we had a change in leadership in our office when the office took over, and this ball kind of fell down for a while until Vince stepped in and said he wanted to pick it up and let's go with it. So I don't know what happened with that, but we haven't gotten any complaints about the spectacular signs. And to some extent, the on-premise permits department for Harris County regulates those. And they will go out and investigate. And our office and our environmental section will prosecute it if need be. That's another group different from me.
Anybody who is not on the community email list that we send things out, if you'll give me your email address or your card, you'll get the complete video for this.
Because Mako down here by Perry Road, they have this, I mean, it almost blinds you when you go down the road. And then there's a bar, it's just like,
If you want to register a complaint about that, email it to me and I'll give it to our permit section and let them take a look at it.
And limo has like a on 249 ring.
Well, thanks again for everybody.